A lot of times we feel like it's about money, but to me, the humanitarian work is about respecting them. It's about giving them dignity, not making them feel like a victim.
Sister Sharon Eubank,
the global director of
Latter-day Saint Charities.
Natural disasters, wars. You are responsible for helping the efforts of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints.
Money creates a lot of opportunity, but it isn't the main driver. The main driver are the things that we're talking about. Taking small donations, everybody's putting that together, trusting that we can do something at scale. Small acts are the only thing we have. Big acts are just a lot of small acts strung together. Those are the things that Jesus gave. He's seeing people. He's listening to them. He's saying, you're valuable. And he's not passing out money to people. I hesitate sharing this.
You don't have to.
No, it's okay. I felt like I was so damaged that God didn't want to hear from me. I just felt like, what's the use? You can't make this work out. And I had a friend who lived next door, and she said, look, and I'll always be grateful for that.
Some people might think, what in the world can I do? Maybe I can put some money in an envelope and send it off. What difference can they make in other people's lives?
There's no way to stop a person like that. It's not money, it's not power, it's... People always say, what's the premier skill? And a lot of times we feel like it's about money. How do I get the funding? How do I write a project? What are the evaluation measures? What are the impact measures? All those things are important. But to me, the premier skill of trying to help other people or ministering or humanitarian work or development, whatever you want to call it, it's that first question, what do you want? What's going on in your life? What's the need that you have? Help me understand where you are. It's in the scriptures everywhere. You got John and Andrew following Jesus. John the Baptist said, that's the Messiah, so they follow him. And he turns around on the beach and he says, what seekest thou? What do you want? Why are you following me? And they come up with a lame excuse of, Master, where do you live? And he's like, come and see. And I think a lot of what we should be doing that maybe we don't do is sitting down with people and saying, tell me about you. What's going on? Help me understand this issue. What help do you need from me? What are you already doing yourself? That conversation is how the best work starts.
But there's an issue that I think in the world. You are the director of the humanitarian efforts of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. This is like the focal point of natural disasters. There's wars that cause so much uproar in the whole world, especially now today.
Yeah.
And you are responsible for helping the efforts that take you into different countries, that take you into all over the world, that you've seen poverty, you've seen famine, you've seen devastation, right? But I think that some people might think, like, what in the world can I do? How can I even be a part of that? Maybe I can put some money in an envelope and send it off, right? Maybe I can put some money to the Red Cross, right? What difference can they make in other people's lives?
That's a really good question, Stephen, because in the truth, small acts are the only thing we have. Big acts are just a lot of small acts strung together. Mm-hmm. And the scriptures are full of that idea that by small and simple means will great things be brought to pass. I think the Lord looks down at the earth and he says, okay, I'm going to use you in your tiny individual small capacity, but I'm also going to link you in an organized faith that you can do things at scale and scope. So I have the privilege of being able to represent the church, taking small donations that you and I make, and my 6-year-old nephew and my grandparents, everybody's putting that together, trusting that we can do something at scale. But we also have an individual responsibility. Look, I live here. I'm around every day. I go to my ward. I live in my neighborhood. What can I do individually? Because it isn't just, I paid my money and I'm done. This is my covenant. I'm living this every single day. What can I do to help other people? It's empowering to me when you parse down all the scriptures. There's just two philosophies going on. It's been since the council in heaven. It's you prosper because of the management of the creature, korihor, or every man seeking the interest of his neighbor, and that's Jehovah in the Doctrine and Covenants. Pretty much that's the choice that we have to make. Am I having this for myself? Am I going to prosper according to how I manage things? Or am I seeking the interest of my neighbor, even at the cost to myself? And every day, in tiny little decisions, we make those choices. And that's what really makes this decision. Am I a humanitarian? Am I a disciple? Am I a Christian? Or am I just worried about myself?
We get stuck over here, don't we?
Well, I mean, and we're naturally inclined that way.
In little ways.
Yeah.
As you're saying that, I'm thinking that, right? We get, tell me more about that dilemma, you think. What do you think that is that causes the dilemma? What is it that makes us to want to even care about those two questions? You know what I mean?
I mean, we're designed to care about ourselves. We're designed to protect ourselves. We scan the area. What's a threat to me? What do I need to do to mitigate that threat? I look at you and I'm trying to make a judgment about you and how you relate to me. That's just our natural, how we are. But the gospel says, yeah, I know you're doing all that, but on top of that, I want you to layer an understanding of that person's a divine son or daughter, and they have an impact and meaning too. And if you can make your life about helping their life, now you're doing something divine. You're not just a creature that was born on this earth. Now you're living up to your divine potential. And Jesus showed us the way. The gospel's part of that. When we live our covenants, it's always going to be, how do I love God? How do I love other people? And we love that doctrine. I mean, we write it, we teach it, we live it, but how we apply it, that's the genius that makes my life different than your life. We're going to do it differently. And there's a real art in that. And for me, that's the beautiful part about humanitarian work. Doing it at the big, large scale at the church, doing these world global organizations, or just doing the tiny little things at home. And the reason I put all these examples in the book was I want people to know you're powerful where you live. You're powerful because you speak the language, you understand the culture, you're there every day, you're not just there for a week. This is your home, these are your people. That's what makes you powerful. If you are then on top of that covenanted, that I will seek the interest of my neighbor, now you're out every single day trying to keep that covenant. There's no way to stop a person like that. That person is the most powerful person in the world. It's not money, it's not power, it's faith.
Wow, so we assume that it's money.
We always assume that it's money.
We assume that it's power. And we might even look at it like, oh, it's faith, really? Come on, seriously? It's that simple, right? But you, from your perspective, you've seen both, where you've seen little things add up financially. The person in this ward over there, they add their money all together. You've seen the big impact of that. You're saying that it goes even deeper, that, yeah, we can help people across the world, but it's even more impactful if we can actually help the people that are right around us on a daily basis. Is that what I understand?
That's the whole premise I've built my life on. We are powerful where we live.
And so you think that perhaps people don't maybe not quite understand that directly.
Well, I haven't understood it my whole life.
Me either.
I can go back and touch the moment when I learned that. The church sent me to Southeast Asia after the tsunami in 2000. It was in 2004, and I was there in 2005. And my job is to help fishermen get their boats back, and seamstresses to get sewing machines back, and we're building 1,000 houses for people who lost their homes. But on our way to where we were going, the man who was driving me and being my interpreter was named Shanta, and he said, I want to show you something. So we stopped in the middle of the country. I'm in Sri Lanka, and there's a train track that goes across the country. And when the people heard the alarm, knowing that the wave was coming, the tsunami wave, they looked around and they thought, oh, that track is real high. It's built up high. And then the train is so heavy on top of it. And they lifted little toddlers and little children for their safety up into the windows of the train, and people in the train accepted them. So you've got all these people because they thought it'll be strong and steady up there.
You're seeing this, or they're telling you this?
He's telling me this.
Okay.
And when the wave, the tsunami came in and it hit that train, it tumbled it. It just tumbled it 5 times, just dented and broke it, and 1,500 people died inside that train. So when I get there, that train is all a wreckage. All the cars are all twisted and crumpled up and everything. And there's all these families camped around that wreckage. And it's because it was the last time they saw their little children. It was the last time they were together as a family. And Shanta wanted me to see this. So, we get out and people are, they're touching my unfamiliar skin and they're saying English words that they know. I lost my baby. I lost my husband. Help me. And I didn't have anything to help. I didn't have anything in my pocket. I didn't have anything in the car. And, I couldn't explain to them, right over there, we're building 1,000 houses. They don't care about that. That's not meaningful to them. And I felt so useless and helpless and not able to explain anything and not able to respond. I was paralyzed. Shanta goes over to our van. He gets out a soccer ball, he pumps it up, and he starts kicking it around, with kids. And they're laughing and they're kind of joking. And then a lady says, come try my bread. You gave me that yeast and here it is. I've just baked it. And he eats it and tells her this is good. And then another lady comes out and she goes, I can't find washing powder. Can you help me get some washing powder? And he says, yeah, I know where to get some. I'll help you. And as I'm standing there, this dawning realization, Shanta is more powerful than I am. It doesn't matter that I come from a global NGO, that I have access to this big humanitarian pot of money. He's doing what they need at the very moment. He's helping kids relax. He's, being fun. He's being helpful. He's encouraging people because he speaks the language. He understands the culture. And he's there every single day. And I'm not. And that was the first time I realized he's more powerful than I am. And I should be directing my power right where I am every day, not on my one-time trip to Sri Lanka. That was a watershed moment for me.
Wow. So you're watching him. You're
I'm just
seeing
watching him. I'm just seeing him do it.
And you're just observing this, and you have this epiphany. I don't know if it's in the moment, but at least as you look back, you're thinking the power. I think I've noticed that word you said, power. What does that mean to you, that word?
To me, we can use our power for different things, but Shanta was using his local power to help other people who were in a bad situation. He can't fix their housing situation. He can't stop that their child, was killed in the tsunami wave, but he's standing next to them every single day and saying, I'll help you with your problems. I can't fix everything, but what I can do, I'll do. And that kind of solidarity among human beings is the power.
That solidarity is the power. Yeah. Because the houses were being built. People were coming in to check it out. And they were there just to be able to reminisce, and that's the last place they saw their loved ones. That's what they were looking for. Interesting.
And you can take a person like Shanta, and you can multiply him. So maybe there's 10 Shantas that are working in that community, and suddenly they start saying, let's work together. We all care about this issue. Let's work together. And they start to affiliate, and I call it a council. The church calls it a council, but you can call it anything. It could be an HOA. It can be a PTSA, it can be just a bunch of neighbors.
Connection, a group of
yeah, it's just a bunch of people
that choose to be
that are connected and they want to do something. And once you've got a group of people like that are focused on how do we make our community better, it's not about me, now you've got real power going through that. And now when there's money, the money should flow through that little committed group because they're holding each other accountable. And then you avoid, inevitable corruption. And they're champions for that place where they live. Now, if you want to spend money, you can percolate it through those little councils. Now you have a lot more leverage than you would with just coming into a situation and buying a bunch of stuff.
It gives more leverage.
It magnifies the leverage, and plus they learn a lot of things. The whole community learns as they go.
What are some of the other issues that you see? That's a natural disaster. That's a tsunami. What are some of the issues that you're seeing that people see? And they might look on the surface and say, we can just throw some money at that. But what is the actual problem?
Well, I'm going to back up and I'm just going to tell you about 3 different women. And I think it's useful to have stories like this because it's a similar situation to anybody watching or listening to this program. These are situations we can relate to. One of them, she's a woman and she cares a lot about helping single moms go back to school, get educated. And she looks around her community and she sees that that's a need. But she's a young married woman herself. She has 1 child and she says, what can I do? But she decides to put out on Instagram, she said, I'm going to try and raise money for scholarships. And my husband and I will match whatever you donate. And she sends that out and she gets enough money for a half a scholarship. So she and her husband match it. There's enough money to send 1 woman to school. And she feels, to the tech college. She feels all like, I was thinking maybe 15 or 20. And then she realized, I'm sending 1 woman who wasn't going to be able to go to school. I get to work with her and provide the funding so that she can go to school. Just 1 person. And instead of feeling like a failure, she realized, this is fantastic. This is we get to work with somebody who's going to be able to go to school. It'll completely change her life.
Everything.
Change her family's life. And so it's easy to discount, I want to do 10, I want to do 100, we should have done 1,000. But without recognizing 1 is 1 person's life. And she said, I thought I had to wait until I was rich and we had a fund and, we could do a thing. And she said, the Spirit told me, don't wait. You don't need to wait to be generous. You can be generous right now. And so there's, she solved that in the way that she could. Another example, there was a woman in Provo, lost her husband in an industrial accident. And after the funeral and everything, the ward had said, we'll help you be able to go back and get your degree. And she couldn't take advantage of it because she's got 3 kids at home and she doesn't know what to do. They're grieving, they're still in shock. And a lady from her stake came and said, look, I don't have any money. I can't help you, but I'm retired. And if it's helpful to you, I can come watch the kids, get them breakfast, get them to school, pick them up from school, run the laundry, make a meal for when you come home from school. Is that something that would help you? And she said, that would be amazing. So that woman did that for 2 years. And it wasn't, I mean, of course it was the help that she provided, but she became that friend that kind of walked them through their grief and was somebody there with them all the time. She made a huge difference for 4 people because she was willing to come do that. She didn't have money, but she was retired and she had time.
Wow. And it multiplies.
It multiplies.
And it makes you wonder, what is the effect that it had on her in the process, you know?
Well, and that's a really
that
good
wouldn't
point.
have happened if she just threw money, right?
Because it isn't just the receivers, it's the givers as well. That's an exchange that blesses everybody in that circle. It was better for that retired woman, it was better for that young family. So everybody benefited from that.
Wow. And how does that impact you to see that?
Well, it helps me look at that and realize it isn't always about a big global project on child nutrition and maternal newborn health. You know, I get to work on those things and I'm really glad to be able to do it. But what's my personal ministry? What am I doing every day in my life to be a humanitarian? I was in charge of a intern program with the 3 BYUs. So the 3 different campuses have a preparation course and then they send students out to do this little class. And one of our campuses wasn't going very well. And I'm in charge of this, and we kept having these problems. So I fly there, and I sit down with the guy, and I say, you know, I've got all these things written down. This isn't working very well. And he's from Fiji. You know, he says to me, sister, he says, I don't know you. He said, and you don't know me. He said, we're going to talk story for 30 minutes, and then we'll get to the stuff on your pad. But he said, I want to know you better. And I'm like, internally, I'm like, are you kidding me? You know, we're going to sit down and we're going to do this thing? It's just a waste of time. And I'm so embarrassed that I thought that, because after he learned about me and I learned about him, I realized he's not doing his job poorly. There's a bunch of stuff going on in here that I didn't understand. And yeah, we're going to talk about the things on my legal pad, but he took the time to be able to teach me. We got to know each other. We got to trust each other before we could solve these problems. And that exchange is such a gift to me. And I still really honor him for teaching me, you know, this young, brash woman coming from, you know, my campus, and we're going to solve this problem. He took the time to be able to say to me, look, we're going to solve that problem, but let's you and I develop a relationship.
What's his name?
His name was Mele Lasuma.
Mele Lasuma. He taught you to slow down and connect.
Yeah.
And that was a lesson that you've been able to, like, he didn't think, I'm going to teach her something. He just like, no, this is how it works. And now you've been able to apply it more and more, right?
It was one of the best lessons I ever learned.
How do you apply it now for you?
Well, like you and I are sitting here, before we started this thing, we started to just get to know each other, because this is going to be a more productive discussion when we know each other's backgrounds.
Yeah.
I don't ever want to do anything without understanding the human side of the person I'm working with. And I want them to know me, because it isn't about the project. It's the exchange. The exchange is the real thing that's going on.
Wow, the exchange. I love that. What is the exchange? What is the exchange? What's being exchanged?
I have a friend in the Middle East, and you know, he was smiling when he said it, but he said, you Americans, he said, you're trying to use relationships to get your projects done. He said, in the Middle East, we try to do projects to build our relationships. And I took a step back and thought, I don't want to be transactional so much with what I'm doing. I want the primary thing that I'm worried about to be you, Stephen. I want to care about Stephen and what's important in his life. And then the projects, the work, then whatever we decide to do flows from the exchange that you and I have.
See, that right there, I think, is the thing. I think that is the thing that we don't see, that we don't understand. That is it's so simple though, right? But it's so profound, isn't it? It's like, it's easy to be transactional. And maybe just sending off the dollar bills is transactional, but actually being there. How can you really know? And there are people around that we pass by every day, that we can connect and make that exchange. That's what I'm understanding. That's what I'm learning from what you're saying.
I'm embarrassed to tell this story because it does not reflect well on me. But, you know, I work at the church office building downtown. And so I park and I walk into the building, and I've done this 28 years that I've worked there. And there are people that stand around Temple Square and they panhandle, they're asking for money. And I've seen the same people over and over again for a lot of time. And one of them scared me to death because she'd pop out of, places when you're going across the crosswalk and she'd get right in your face and she'd say, I need money, I need help, and just this sort of barrage. And I mean, I'm not lying. I would walk clear around to the other side of the building, go in the other entrance because I didn't want her to surprise me that way. And one day I was walking with my colleague Elizabeth, and we're in the crosswalk, and up she comes, she's right with us, following us along. I need help. Give me some money. I need something. And Elizabeth says, Marilyn, how you doing? I haven't seen you in such a long time. And if you'd seen her face, because I'm right up close to her, she just relaxes and she goes, oh, Elizabeth, how are you? And they have this little discussion. So I go in the building and I say to Elizabeth, how do you know her? She goes, I met her, on the crosswalk, just like you. But Elizabeth and her husband went to a lot of trouble to get to know Marilyn, and they spent time with her. They introduced their kids when they came down to see the lights at Temple Square. And she told me a story that Marilyn goes and she goes, wait, I have something for you. They're there at Christmas.
Marilyn has
Marilyn, she says, I have something for you I want to give you. And she goes back to the place where she's got her things, and she has a little styrofoam thing, and it's a piece of red velvet cake that she had saved, that she wanted to give this family, and probably somebody gave it to her, but it was her Christmas gift to them. And I tell this whole story. I have so much admiration for Elizabeth and her husband, Mark, for having the foresight to be able to not see a panhandler, but to see a woman, a mother, her kids went to West High, and to get to know her a little bit better and to have this exchange. And there's a parable about people like me, in the New Testament, of they walk around on the other side. I'm so embarrassed that I didn't apply that New Testament teaching to the thing that was going on in my life. I had to see what Elizabeth was doing before I understood. You're preaching about this every single day, and yet you're walking right past Marilyn. You're not doing it. Wow. So I was really grateful for that example, that lesson.
Thanks for sharing that. I don't think that's very vulnerable to say that. I mean, people think, you were previously a general leader in the church, that you have a, I don't want to say struggle, right? But you're trying as hard as everybody else, and you recognize you want to definitely live what you learn and what you teach, what you preach.
It's a struggle for everybody. We have blind spots. We don't sometimes recognize our blind spot, and I had a blind spot.
Yeah. Marilyn, wow, the exchange. So what do you think the exchange was?
It was dignity. They saw Marilyn bigger than a panhandler, more than just, somebody asking for money. They saw her as a person, and as a person with kids and with a background and with feelings. They knew her name, and they exchanged that. And then she wanted to give respect back to them in the form of a piece of cake. But it wasn't about the cake. It was about, I'm a giver too. I don't want just people to give to me. I'm a giver too.
Wow. Don't we all want that?
We all want that.
Whether it's money or not, right? It's like, I want to be able to contribute. I want to take part. And so I'm just thinking of of what people might think of just naturally, right? Like, so it's not money, so we don't help people with money. I don't think that's what you're saying. I think that what you're saying, what I'm understanding is, there's some things that are worth more than money that can happen in that exchange.
Thanks for bringing that up, because I don't want to give the impression that money isn't important. Money creates a lot of opportunity and resource for people, but it isn't the main driver. The main driver are the things that we're talking about. It's about honoring somebody's choice. It's about respecting them. It's about giving them dignity, not making them feel like a victim, asking them what they want, trying to help them. Those are the things that Jesus gave. Jesus didn't have a fund on the earth. I mean, he could have, but he doesn't. He's not passing out money to people. He's seeing people. He's listening to them. He's saying, you're valuable. You're a Samaritan. You're a Roman soldier. You're a tax collector up in a tree. But I see you, and you see me, and we know who each other is.
That's so important, right?
That's the thing that's important.
So we misunderstand. And I'm just kind of recapping this idea. This is what I'm learning. We kind of have this idea that we can't help, and there's people right in front of our face on a daily basis that need this exchange, that need this connection, that need this perspective, really. And people in communities, individuals, and even in their own faith, right? If we don't truly understand this principle, what could be the result of that?
I mean, in a lot of ways, our society is polarized, and it's getting more polarized. People say, You don't worship the same as me. You don't vote the same as me. You don't see the world the same as me. I can't have anything to do with you. And so we get put in little boxes, and pretty soon there's no common ground among us to be able to work things. And one of the things I really love about Joseph Smith, I don't know where the source is, but he said, if they send us to hell, we'll turn the devils out of it and we'll make a heaven out of it. He said, you could put me in the worst situation, but because of the principles that I have from the gospel of Jesus Christ, I can make that better enough that over time, I'm going to turn it into heaven. And so he was really open toward working with people who thought he was a fraud or didn't agree with him or thought Nauvoo was a mistake. He's open to working with people, and he wasn't trying to shut people out. And so for me, the great opportunity is, I know we don't vote the same. I know we don't worship the same. I know we feel differently about these things. But what do we care about that's the same? I'm going to help you. You help me. Let's find something that we can do in common. It's really easy to talk about that. It's really hard to do. But it is the work that is in front of us in the 21st century. How do we take conflict? How do we take disagreement and find something that we can do together?
You believe it's possible?
I've seen it. I know it's possible.
You've seen it.
I mean, we have a great example in Salt Lake City. You've got Pamela Atkinson. She's a deacon in the Episcopal Church. She's from England. She's a Episcopal. She's a nurse. She's a counselor to Utah governors. But she says, and she told me this, she said, I talk to legislators and I tell them, look, I disagree with you 75% of the time, but I still like you. I still respect you as a person. And even though we don't, agree on this issue, can I learn more? Will you tell me more about what you think? Can I tell you more about what I think? She doesn't cut the conversation off. She leaves herself open to be able to do that. And the relationship's never at stake. Yeah, we don't agree. It's okay, but I still like you as a person. And that skill, I think, is really helpful.
Wow, that's so cool. I mean, especially because we make that assumption that if we don't believe the same, then we all want the connection. We all want to help people who are in need, but we just keep going about our ways, right? It's almost as if we almost believe that, like, if we don't do it, it's like, why bother? Like, if I can't really make a big difference, why bother? Or we assume that they don't care, or we assume. Are there any other assumptions that people make when it comes to actually tackling these different challenges that you see that we face in the world?
There's a lot of assumptions that we make, and I'm guilty of making them too. One of them is that we know better. We know what they need. I like the story that was told me by Michael Nineheist. There's a lot of versions of this. But, you go into a community and you look around, you go, yep, I know what they need. They need a health center. When you ask the community, they want lights for their soccer field. And you're like, lights for your soccer field. And that's not going to help the kids that have malaria and everything else. But that's what they want. And when you help them get what they want, then they say, yeah, now our kids have a safe place to play and it's lit up at night. And, they're not out getting into trouble. And now we can work on, since the whole community loves the soccer field with the lights, now we're ready to look at the health clinic or whatever the next thing is, because we helped them get the thing that they wanted. So making an assumption about what people need, always going to be wrong.
Well, I mean, we don't want to call anybody out, right? But I think it might be interesting to just, what are some examples of things when we do this, right? I think it'd be interesting to kind of give a good perspective so that we can, better turn it around, right? What are some examples of, you've already given a few, I guess, but I'm just thinking of, even my own ward. Somebody has a baby, and I mean, I'm not saying it's a bad thing, right? It's like, let's do the thing that we always do.
Yeah, I assume you need a meal.
Yeah, I'm not saying, look, I love the meals, right? But maybe what if we did stop and think, what do you need? What do you want? What would help you, Yeah. Are there any others that you can think of?
I know a story about, there was a women's shelter in West Virginia, and that ward decided, we're going to do something for them for Christmas. We're going to gather all these things. We're going to make stockings for the kids. We're going to wrap presents. We're going to go over there on Christmas Eve and we're going to give them all these things because they can't have Christmas in the shelter. And so everybody's in the big gym and everybody in the ward loved it. That was the best project. It was so good. It felt this real spirit of Christmas. They really debriefed about it, how great that felt. But the Stake Relief Society president says, I didn't like that project. They're like, what do you mean? It was great. She said, I could see the faces of the moms sitting in the back. She said, they looked miserable because we made them feel like failures. They couldn't provide Christmas for their kids, but the Latter-day Saints are going to come whipping in with all these great presents that they couldn't buy, and now their kids are looking, hope that nice church comes and gives us stuff for Easter, or whatever, but they're not looking toward their mom. She said that we could do this differently. And so the next year they went in, they sat down with the women that were at the shelter, and they said, we made a mistake. We didn't mean to make you feel this way, but we know that we did. What do you wish would happen at Christmas time? What would you like? Those women said, it's so generous of you to buy those things, but put them in a little store where we can come in and pick out what we want for our kids and wrap the presents ourselves. And you won't get to be there on Christmas Eve. You won't get to see their faces. You don't get that emotional kick, but it helps us as a family, celebrate Christmas. They also realized there's a bunch of women in there that aren't necessarily Christian. They don't celebrate Christmas, but they can't celebrate Ramadan or Kwanzaa or whatever their holiday was, because that wasn't allowed by the ward. It's asking those questions and not making those assumptions. They learned so much the second year when they went in, and they were able to help them the way they wanted to be helped, and it made a difference.
Agency, right? It felt like the agency part is really huge. I don't think we think about that. I think the first thing we might think is like, well, give them what they want. They might not want the thing that's like good for them. But I don't think that's what you're saying. I don't think that's what you're saying at all. I think that there's things that are underneath that they could actually, like giving them the chance to make the money to get it, that gives them the dignity like you mentioned before, right?
What you said is true. We're afraid that people will ask for things that are not good for them.
Yeah.
And that we can't honor that, because that was obviously the wrong choice. But there's a skill to be able to asking somebody, they ask for something, and help them think through that. Okay, let's assume that we provide that thing, and what happens when it runs out? What happens when the $50 that you asked for to go, and you say you use it to go buy a new carton of cigarettes? And that's not the thing that I wanted you to do for it, but that's the thing that you wanted to do. But what happens when that carton is gone and you're back to needing more money again? Just walking them through and saying, okay, if you didn't spend it on cigarettes, what else would you spend it on? Well, I might buy this. Okay, between those two things, which has the longer term benefit? Well, it's probably this other thing. I said, okay, I'm willing to give you the $50, but what's the thing that will help you the most, so that in a week from now, we're not talking about a second $50. And just asking them a bunch of questions. I'm going to honor whatever you say, but let's walk through, what is the thing that you want to do? And sometimes we're not willing to have that longer conversation.
Taking the time, really. I mean, it's easy just to give the money, but it takes more time to listen, to understand, and to get a better perspective, and care along the way. And then again, it affects the person too, right?
And maybe it's not just a one-time thing. Maybe they buy that thing and they make that mistake, and you knew that was going to happen, and turns out all right, it's happened now. Now, what do we do? How do we learn from that mistake? What do you want to do next? Now that you had that experience, how do we fix it? That's the way the Lord works with us. Yep, you made a mistake.
That's so interesting.
You made a mistake, and I'm still going to help you.
We just make so many assumptions about this, is what I'm getting at, what I'm learning, because we don't do it because I think that we assume that it's not enough. And then when we do it, it's almost like we just want it to be quick and easy,
And that's on us, and it's natural. Of course, we want something. We just want to drop something off. Here's a meal, here's bread, here's $50. But it protects us from that exchange, because that exchange feels really messy to us.
Yeah.
But the real art is in the messy relationship.
I love it. It makes me think of Elder Bednar's wife. He was telling a story in one of the it's like a Q&A that he did, and his wife asked her the sister that she ministered to, what is ministering? What is Christ-like? How did President Nelson put it? How does Christ-like ministry? How does ministering in a higher and holier way look for you?
Ooh.
Right? And then she was like, you know what? I don't go to the temple that often, if I'm remembering correctly. And so she was like, oh, let's go to the temple. But she didn't just show up with cookies. She didn't just.
It's a great example.
Do you know what I'm saying?
Great example.
But what have you seen for you? These are examples that you've seen from different stories that you've had. Has there been anybody who ministered to you this way?
There's a lot of people who have ministered to me that way. I hesitate sharing this because.
You don't have to.
No, it's okay. But early in my life, after I graduated from university, I was in a spiritual funk. I just didn't know what to do next in my life, and I kind of got paralyzed. And one of the results of that was I couldn't pray. I felt like I was so damaged that God didn't want to hear from me. And I'm a returned missionary. I've been faithful in my covenants, but I couldn't pray. I just felt like, what's the use? It's just a glass ceiling. I can't make this work out. And I had a friend who lived next door, and she said, look, I'll come over and pray with you every night. Let's just have an evening prayer together. And I'm like, no, you don't need to do that. And she goes, I'm going to do that. And it was listening to her pray for me that completely carved out little chinks in my wall until I could get through that. And she did it for months. She came over and did that. And I'm sure it was inconvenient for her, but it was hearing her pray for me that somehow lifted that paralysis that I had. And I'll always be grateful for that, because I don't know what would have happened in my life trajectory if I'd gotten stuck there, if I didn't have somebody right next to me who could have helped me.
Wow. How did she know that did you tell her?
She asked me, what's wrong with you? How come, you're so sad? And I told her.
And so she hears you say, listen, I'm struggling just praying. And then she comes up with the idea, well, why don't I come and pray? You know what? I'll pray.
Yeah.
Wow. So what's going through your mind? She's praying that first prayer, and you're hearing her pray for you.
Well, I got emotional because, we sit in meetings, we hear the opening prayer, we hear the closing prayer, but to hear another person, a friend who knows you, pray for you and hear those words that you wish you would say for yourself, but you don't, it was really meaningful to me. I felt loved by her, but I also felt that God was caring about me too through that prayer. And it was transformational for me. And now the burden on me is, can I do that for somebody else? I've received this gift. What can I do for somebody else? And my absolute favorite scripture in the Book of Mormon is not a famous one. It's not the one people love, but it's Jacob 2:17, and I've loved it for decades. But this is Jacob, and so this is his family. You gonna look it up?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm gonna just see.
You look it up. You read it out loud, and then I'll tell you why I like it so much.
Jacob 2 what?
17.
2:17.
And you just have to think about, Jacob's not talking to a mixed group of people. These are all his relatives. Everybody in that crowd he's related to.
So think of your brethren like unto yourselves, and be familiar with all, and free with your substance, that they may be rich like unto you.
So his brethren were tough. Laman and Lemuel are his brethren. And whatever happens later on with Laman and Lemuel, they tried to kill Nephi, they tried to kill their father. They flew into murderous rages. Jacob's been watching that since he was a little kid. But he says, a different version of the golden rule, think of your brethren like unto yourselves. Do unto others as you would have done unto you. So he's got that. Think about them as human beings, not just as the bad guys in the Book of Mormon. They're his brothers. And be familiar with all. In other words, have that openness like Joseph Smith. Yeah, I don't agree with you, but I'm willing to engage with you and be familiar with all and free with your substance. Of course, we think money, and money is good to be free, but also the dignity, the agency, the friendship, the prayer. I'm going to be free with the gifts that I've had with you. We're gonna do things together, that they may be rich like unto you. Wow. Rich in friendship, in resources, and opportunities, and talent, all those things, and not just focus so much on the money. I love that scripture for what it says about how the gospel of Jesus Christ transforms us away from worrying about physical things to worrying about each other as human beings, as brothers and sisters.
Reciprocity is what I feel it comes to my mind when you say that.
I love that word, yeah.
That's what reciprocity is, right? I think is what I'm learning from you right now. I think it's like, isn't that what, like, we want to give it back because we got it so well? Is that what you're saying? Like, that we should want to, if I look at the way, it's the golden rule. And I love it. I love that you mentioned that in your book, like every denomination, like a lot of different belief systems, right? They have this similar philosophy that treat people the way that you want to be treated. And oftentimes, and understanding that that's the way that you were treated. And when you're treated well, you want others to receive the same thing. Is that what I'm understanding?
Well, that's the only way we can give back to what God has given to us or what other people have given to us, is to turn around and, we say it in our culture, pay it forward or, do something else. But that's really the only thing we can give is our love and care for somebody else.
It's worth way more than money.
It's worth more than money.
Wow.
Now, we've been really earnest. We talk about all these things and we've talked about scriptures and everything. But one of the points that I make toward the end of the book is we mostly do things because they're fun. We do things because we're enjoying them. Yeah. And there's nothing wrong with enjoying kinds of things. I think the Lord, he asked us to multiply, but he also asked us to replenish. And it's nothing wrong with Jesus going into the wilderness and having a replenishment time with his Father, or us having a Sabbath to just kind of rest and relax, or, God creates the whole world and then he sits back and says it's good. That's part of what we need to do, to multiply and then replenish. And we do things and other people get attracted to them because they're fun. And so bringing out the enjoyment, the friendship, the food, the music, all of those kinds of things, that's part of how we enjoy each other. And I think sometimes we make it so earnest, I do. This is our scriptural duty, this is our covenantal responsibility, that we miss that it's also fun. It's also, we can enjoy each other. We can share our recipes and we can sing together and we can play sports and we can laugh at each other. And all of those things are part of this kind of a life.
It's part of the real relationship. It's part of the real connections, right? I feel like is that where we're going back to again? I think that's a constant thing that I'm understanding even more and more as we have this conversation. Because you think, oh, that's a waste of money. Why are we doing this thing that's just fun? It's like, no, that's the thing that we really want, is those connections, right?
A lot of people who have grown up in poverty, they don't have material goods, but they enjoy relationships a lot, and they're full of humor and they're full of laughing and jokes. They're happy to share whatever they have with the whole community. And when I get involved in this reciprocity that you're talking about, that's what I get out of that. Oh my gosh, we're having fun together. I'm relaxing. I'm enjoying somebody's humor. And sometimes I get so wound around the axle that I'm just worrying about my tasks, and I don't do those things, and they're not a waste. That's what makes us fully human. It's what makes us great for each other.
That makes us great for each other. Wow. I can tell that you believe that when you say that.
Well, don't you believe it?
Well, because I'm saying, I'm hearing you say, I'm Sharon Eubank. I am more naturally maybe DNA to want to get things done, but you're saying, no, I actually want this connection. I want to be connected. I want to be connected just like everybody else. And I think that's beautiful. That's very, very beautiful. Because I just remember that story of Gustavo. I think it's so beautiful. Can you tell us more about him? You mentioned in your book this guy, his name's Gustavo. I love that he was like, he made it more fun. Tell me about him.
I met Gustavo because we were in the same HR orientation when we both came to work for the church. So, I am in this it's very boring meeting. And suddenly Gustavo's late, so he walks in. And, he looks around the room and he goes, I can liven this for him. And he starts cracking jokes and he starts making people laugh. And he just had that personality. He was from Guatemala and he just loved energy and life. He was really fun. And we realized, we're going to be working in the same department. So we spent a lot of our career working together. And I just learned to really appreciate him. Loved to cook. Loved to make Guatemalan dishes. And so he's bringing salsa to every event. And he's bringing, Guatemalan hot chocolate to these different things. And everything was a party the second that Gustavo arrived, because he was funny and he quoted lines from movies and he brought the food and he knew everybody. And whether that came from his heritage or just, his divine spark, everybody wanted to be around Gustavo. And everybody listening to this, you got a Gustavo in your life. Everybody has somebody like that. And, he cared so much about people. He invited my little nephews who'd been adopted from Guatemala over to his house to cook. He's teaching them all his special recipes, and they didn't have much connection to Guatemala. They'd grown up in American Fork, Utah. But suddenly they're interested and they're feeling connected. And I told him, you're feeding a hunger that they didn't even know they had. And he was just like an uncle to them. He was just so great. And Gustavo died a couple years ago of liver failure, and I miss him. I just miss the joy that he brought into my life. And so in the book, I put one of his recipes that people can try just in honor of him.
That's so cool. I could tell you like him. I could just tell how you're saying. What was it that he said in the like he was like it was like a pun. It was like a play on words. I can't remember. It was like I can't remember. It was like Jose. Like the way that you would filling out different paperwork. Anyway.
Oh, I know what you're talking about.
Do you know what I'm talking about?
We used to teach a little employment class, and we had to create a little fictional business. And Gustavo and I taught this class together. And so his fictional business was it was a snow cone shop, and it was called Snow Way Jose. And he just did it so people would laugh.
That's so funny. Like, but wasn't he kind of like saying, don't do it like that?
Yeah.
Like, don't mess it up like this, like, Snow Way Jose.
Snow Way Jose.
Oh, that's interesting. It seems like the both of you together made a good balance, a good combination. The things that you could bring to the table, things that he could bring to the table. You're not exactly the same, but that exchange, I love that perspective of the exchange. And it's way more valuable than money, you know. What are practical ways that we can connect this to Christ, to the gospel of these different types of humanitarian decisions? We've mentioned a few already. What would you say?
I think a lot about Jesus because I've said this before, but he's born into kind of an outpost in the Roman Empire that nobody, really likes being assigned to be in Palestine. They don't like that. And he doesn't go anywhere. He doesn't have a fund. He basically walks from the north where he's from up in Nazareth down to Jerusalem, maybe down to Beersheba. But it's 122 miles, and he's just walking, interacting with people, teaching his gospel, helping people with their problems. And he has 3 years of this ministry to somehow get his gospel out to the whole world. But what he did was he invested deeply in a handful of disciples that were around him, knowing that they could go out. And he transformed every one of their lives, both the women and the men. And, we were lucky we have those stories in the New Testament, and that kind of stuff went forward. But for us, the great thing about Jesus, knowing that he would do that teaching and then he would perform his atoning sacrifice for us. What he did, what he gave, was a couple important things to me. Number one, you can always try again. I have paid the price so that as long as you're willing, you can try again, and I'll help you fix your mistakes. There's no way to put a price on that. We can recover from our mistakes. And the second thing that he gave us is, I'll always be with you. As long as you're trying, I won't leave you. My spirit will stay with you, and I will stay with you so that you're not going to be alone. Because he knew this life, it's not going to work out for everybody. It's full of suffering and unfair things and terrible things that have happened that shouldn't have happened. But he said in that Nazareth synagogue when he started his ministry, he said, I'll give you beauty for your ashes. And that's the promise of Jesus Christ. Yeah, this mortal life is not the end, and nothing here has been fair. And it's not fair for me that had such a great life. It's not fair for other people who suffered unimaginably, but it will be made fair because of him. And so for me, I have to trust in that. And then I have to do everything I can to live his gospel, to exchange with other people so that I know him. I want to be like him so that I'll be happy in the next life, and then I'll have all the people that I care about happy with me. And he won't rest. This is the promise of the Messiah. He won't rest until we have everything that we're willing to receive. No matter what happened to us, as long as we're willing to receive it, he'll stay with us until we can have the desires of our hearts. He's going to make sure everybody gets the desires of their hearts. And I want to be part of that. And so I'm just trying to find one thing that I can do every single day toward that vision, and I really care about it.
Whoa, that's so. He encapsulates everything we've been talking about, right? He came, even that perspective of him coming from Nazareth all the way down. He condescended to us and asked us, "What do you want?" That's what I'm learning from you right now. Isn't that what he did? Like everything that we've been talking about this whole time, he didn't go to everybody, but he did to a few who then went to more, who then went to more, who then went to more, right?
Yeah.
And so you're saying this one-to-one is so important, is what I'm understanding you're saying.
Yeah, that's a really important part of the gospel.
It's the one-to-one.
Yeah.
It's very powerful. It's so important. Like you could give a general conference talk to everyone, And then, but you've also had experiences one-to-one.
Well, and that general conference talk is only meaningful. Otherwise, it just fades away unless the Spirit touches somebody and something that was in that talk, they go, yeah, I resonate to that. And the Holy Ghost is with them. That's a one-on-one exchange. And the Lord is miraculous. He can make that happen with the smallest bits of resources. He can make that happen.
He doesn't even need money. I mean, he can use money as a tool, right? What's a one-to-one for you? You already mentioned, I know you talked about your friend who helped you pray. You've been able to speak to millions of people, right? And then are there any one-on-one exchanges that were just simple, that you saw a ripple effect?
You know, when I was appointed to be the director of humanitarian services in 2011, and I was pretty young in my career, and I didn't really know what I was doing. I was put into a job that was too big for me. And I had a colleague who was the manager of administration. His name was Patrick. And Patrick Reese, he worked for the church for 37 years. He could have just said, why did they choose you? You know, I could do this in my little finger. You know, why did they choose you? And why am I stuck helping you? But he didn't do that. He'd sit in my office every morning for about 20 minutes, and he'd say, we kind of go through the day. We've got this going, and he'd ask me a bunch of questions. And I'd turn to him and I'd say, Patrick, what do you think I should do? And he would say, this is his mantra, he'd say it all the time, my solution to your problem will always be wrong. So he's living some of those principles that we're talking. Yeah. And I'm like, what do you mean? He said, the answer to what you need to do is inside you. He said, I'm going to ask you a bunch of questions, and whatever you decide to do, I'm going to help you do it because I trust you. You're in this position for a reason, and I'm going to help you build your confidence. And he did, because, yeah, sometimes I made mistakes. Patrick helped me fix those mistakes, but he trusted me enough to trust my own gut. And of all the things that he could have given me, that little idea of my solution to your problem will always be wrong has stayed with me forever. And he helped me uncover what I thought the right answer was, and then he helped me implement it. And then he helped me fix it when it wasn't right. And then he helped me do it again. I'm so grateful for him. He helped set me on a path that has blessed me for 15 years.
It's blessed you for 15 years. And now you can then pass that along, I'm understanding.
Well, I mean, it goes back to what we talked about earlier. My solution to your problem will always be wrong, but you know the answer to that. So what I can do is ask you a bunch of questions and see if we can excavate your thinking down to where you get to, yep, that's what I think we should do.
And then that experience of you doing it has actually helped you. The Sharon that we see right now has been from you being able to figure it out.
Well, I came from the shy girl who didn't want to talk to anybody.
Yeah, it blows my mind that you're saying that, honestly. Yeah. And now you've been able to influence literally millions of people.
The work is the influence, and I'm so lucky that I get to be part of it. But there's thousands of people working behind the scenes for what the church does in the 24 areas, in the staff that I have, and they're all motivated by the principles that we've been talking about.
And you're letting them figure it out. You're giving them the agency, the tools, the perspective, and you're allowing them to do it. That's so interesting. Is that a way that you didn't say that directly, but is that a way that you've been able to apply that, what you've learned from this mentor of yours?
I mean, I feel bad when I came to the church. I didn't understand these doctrines. I read about them in the scriptures, but I didn't know how to apply them. And one of the reasons that I put all of this experience into some kind of a book is I don't want people to have to make the same mistakes over and over again. You know, there's principles that we can. I didn't write them in the book, you know, using our doctrinal language. I just wanted anybody to be able to interact with these. But the principles, and anybody who is familiar with scriptures will look at that and think, oh yeah, that's agency, that's dignity. I know what those things are. And they're true principles. And I hope that by I told 92 stories in that book. You and I have talked about some of the stories. We only learn by stories. We learn by examples. And I just wanted to share great examples of people that I've seen so that they can be powerful for other people. That maybe you feel like you know Shanta, or you know Patrick, or you know Gustavo, you know.
No, for sure. What would if you could put all of the lessons that you've learned? You've had so many experiences, not just in a book, but just in your life. Maybe there's some that you didn't even put in the book. That's like just this idea of like making it small and simple. What would that be? If you were to simplify what it is that you would say is the essence of it, what would that be?
One thing we haven't talked about yet, and it's a really hard reality, but there's always things that are happening that we can't do anything about. And that's really hard. There's things that for sure we can do something about. We can address our little councils, our energy, our every day. There's certain things that we can soften, but I can't fix. Mother Teresa was a great example. She's kneeling by people who are dying. She's washing them. She's holding their hand. She cannot change the fact that they're going to die of the disease that they have, but she can make sure that they won't be alone and that they have comfort and at the very end. And I think a lot of our work is that. I cannot change the reality of this situation, but I'll be with you. I'll sit by you. I can soften this. But then, anybody who's engaged in this kind of work for a long period of time, you recognize there's all kinds of things I cannot change. I cannot stop the conflict that's going on in Ukraine and Russia or Gaza and Israel, or I can't stop those things. I don't have the ability to change a global conflict. I'm just one person. And there's an acceptance of that at the very end that is really hard for a person like me, because I always want to try. I always want to do something. But for the things that I can't change, I feel the burden of them. I feel the suffering of people. Then I have to draw on my faith and I have to say, God, this is you. You have all power. This is your earth. Jesus has already paid for all of the horror that's going on. I trust you. I'll pray to you. That scripture I think it's in James 5, that says the effectual, fervent prayer of a righteous man or woman availeth much. All I can do is turn to faith and ask God in his mightiness, who's much bigger than I am, to intervene and to work on that and to have the patience for that. I was really moved. I was in Israel right before the October 7th attack. It was maybe August or September, right before then. And I took a trip over to Bethlehem on the West Bank, and there's a church there, and then there's a special place where a Catholic order of nuns has set up a place where they will continually pray for peace. So they have a nun who kneels at an altar constantly, 24/7, and her whole ministry is to pray for peace in a place of conflict. And it'd be really easy. I went to see her. She's dressed in this beautiful white robe with a black veil, and she's just kneeling there praying for peace. And it'd be easy to say, what good is that? A woman kneeling at an altar and not doing anything except praying. But for me, thinking about these situations where we can't do anything about, at least right now, drawing on my faith is one of the great consolations that I have as a believing person, that God will look over the things that we can't do anything about, and he will intervene. He will take care of those things. He will make all those things right. That's the promise. It might not be in this world, but he will do it. And when we believe that he'll do it, we're part of that solution too. That's the thing I would want to say at the very end.
Wow. Prayer means something to you. I can feel it. Prayer matters a lot. You've mentioned it many times. And I love it. You mentioned Mother Teresa when she said prayer changes. What did she say? It's like, I just can't remember. It changes the people.
Yeah.
And then the people can make the change. I didn't say it right. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, and she's saying a similar idea because it's a true thing to what President Benson said.
Yeah.
He said, you don't just you don't just take
the people out
of the slums. You take the slums out of the people, and then they take themselves out of the slums. We're not worried as much about exterior remodeling as we are about interior remodeling. Help people feel that they have the power, feel that they have the confidence and the right to do things, and then you won't be able to stop what they do.
I love that. That's a lot of what we've been saying, right? Even with your personal experience with your mentor, right? He allowed you to see it, experience it, right? God gives us these experiences that turn us to him, that give us this connection with him.
It's why I wrote the title of the book. I called it Doing Small Things with Great Love, because that's a Mother Teresa quote. She said, we can't all do large things, but we can all do small things with great love. And I think that's true.
Wow. So let's say we get to an ideal world where people live like this. Paint that picture for us. What does it look like? What do I see? That people, we live in a world where people believe this and they act on it and they live it and they love it. What does it look like?
I mean, I don't have to make the answer to this up because this is the doctrine of Zion. This is the thing that the scriptures always talk about. And they talk about one heart and one mind, no poor among us. I mean, that's the definition that Enoch gave about Zion.
That's like this week, come follow me. Like in 2 weeks. Yeah, it is.
Here we are.
It
We're
is.
talking
It
about
literally is.
So this is Doctrine and Covenants 58. I know we've already been past this, but I just want to read this because this is personally motivating to me. This is the Lord. He's saying, I'm going to show you what this kind of place looks like. He said, for this cause, this is 58:6, for this cause have I sent you. Okay, I want to know that because here I am. I want to do something meaningful in my life. He says, for this cause have I sent you, that ye might be obedient, that your hearts might be prepared to bear testimony of things to come, and that you might be honored in laying the foundation upon which the Zion of God shall stand, that a feast of fat things might be prepared for the poor. And then he goes on to talk about what that would be like. And then he finishes off and then he says, behold, for this cause have I sent you. So it's this little, he says, I'm going to tell you why I sent you. It's a feast of fat things for the poor. This is Zion. This is why you're prepared. This is why I sent you. For me, these little 6 verses, this is so important because this is what it looks like. Every man, every woman seeking the interest of their neighbor, acknowledging that we have a work to do and God will help us in it. And when we make mistakes, it's going to get fixed. And it's not just about us being so great helping other people. They're helping us. It's the exchange. And we choose that kind of a life. We make that kind of a life.
We want it.
Yeah, that's the Zion upon which the God will stand.
I believe what you said. I believe it. I think that this is something that's important and it's very, very powerful. Is there anything else that you want to add to this? Is if you could talk to the person right now who not really sure if the small things that they do make a difference, what would you say to them?
I think one of the easiest things that Satan can do is to just get us to feel overwhelmed. I'm paralyzed. I don't know what to do. And it's easy for me to get paralyzed. If you could just think about, say somebody is 40 years old right now and they realize, I want to live that kind of a life. If that person would pray every morning and just say, inspired me to give one thing that I can do today. Give me an idea or a prompting for one thing I can do. And then they would do it. Over the course of their lifetime, they're going to do, 16,000 things, but not just ordinary things. They're things that the Lord asked them to do. And you just have to do one a day. You're going to get 16,000 divine things done. There's something really powerful in that. That's a small thing being done with love. If you don't know what those things are, or if you don't feel confident enough to hear the Lord, then say, here's 5 things that I thought about. Which one do you think I should do? And you're going to grow and you're going to do things that he wants done and you're going to bless other people and they're going to bless you. And that makes a life. Don't be paralyzed. Just do one thing every day. And the Lord will bless that effort. And you will get involved in things you never thought you would get involved in.
If I may, to bear second witness from the words of Christ in the book of Moroni, it says, when he shall appear, we shall be like him, for we shall see him as he is.
Thank you.
Anyway, I think that's what ends up happening.
I love Jesus Christ. I love the gospel that he taught. And I love trying to break down my own barriers and my own prejudices, my own blind spots, and try to be better every day and try to see the Marilyns in my life. And I just can testify, he's helped me on that journey. He'll help anybody on that journey.
I believe that what you're saying is true. I know it's true. But don't take our word for it. It's up to you to go to God and find out for yourself. This is Let's Get Real. I'm Stephen Jones. Thankful that Sister Eubanks could come with us today. Until next time.